Some people will shrink when you walk in the room, not because you did them wrong, but because your spirit whispers a truth they haven't faced in themselves. Stay, watch. By the end of this, you'll know why your light unsettles the dim. There are some people who walk into a room and shift the atmosphere without uttering a single sound. They don't announce themselves with loud voices or dramatic flair. No, they arrive on the wings of presence, quiet, calm, and commanding. Their energy is not theatrical, but it is undeniable. And you are one of them. You don't have to speak to make people feel. You don't have to demand attention. It's given to you, sometimes reluctantly, sometimes reverently, but always inevitably. Your silence has weight, not the heaviness of sorrow, but the depth of awareness. You carry knowing in your bones, a stillness that reaches deeper than noise. You are not just quiet, you are clear. And clarity, my dear, is unnerving to those still living in fog. Some will call you intimidating, but it's not intimidation they feel, it's recognition. You remind them of something they've buried, the truth of who they are, the dreams they let go, the shadows they haven't dared to face. You don't mean to hold a mirror, but your soul is a mirror. And when you stand there in your peace, in your steadiness, in your light, those around you are forced to see themselves as they are, not as they pretend to be. You felt it before, the way the energy shifts when you walk in, the glances, the small stutters, the sudden quiet. It's not arrogance that makes you notice it, it's awareness. You feel things deeply, the unspoken, the uneasy, the unresolved. You're attuned to the undercurrents that others miss or ignore. And because of this, you often find yourself misunderstood, misread. People will project discomfort onto you because they cannot yet name it within themselves. But you must know that is not your burden to carry. You are not responsible for how others respond to your light. You are responsible only for keeping that light lit. There is something sacred about a person who doesn't need to speak to command a room. You carry that sacredness, not because you strive to be better, but because you've chosen to be honest about who you are, about what you feel, about what matters. You don't wear masks, not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you've outgrown the need to be accepted through performance. And that kind of authenticity, it disrupts the illusions others live in. Your aura speaks where words would fail. You walk in truth. You move with intention. Your silence holds more meaning than the loudest noise, and it frightens those who have spent their lives hiding behind volume. They may say you're too intense, too serious, too hard to read, but what they mean is you're too real. And realness, in a world so fond of performance, feels like confrontation. But you are not here to confront anyone. You are here to be. Let others react however they must. Let them squirm. Let them fidget. Let them fall quiet when you enter, not because you seek to silence them, but because your presence reminds them of what silence sounds like when it's not empty, when it's filled with meaning. There is power in your restraint. There is wisdom in your quiet. There is revolution in your ability to hold space without having to fill it. And still, there will be days when you question it, when you wonder if you should be more like them, if maybe you should laugh a little louder, speak a little more, shrink yourself to make others more comfortable. There will be moments when their distance feels like rejection, when the loneliness whispers its doubts, when you will be tempted to believe that you are wrong for being the way you are. But listen closely. Those are not your truths. You were not born to be loud to be heard. You were not made to be small to be accepted. Your silence is not a lack. It is a presence. It is a knowing. It is a force. You are not invisible. You are undeniable. And there is a difference. So hold your space even when it trembles others. Stay steady even when the room tries to shake you, because you, beloved, are not here to mirror their confusion. You are here to reflect their truth. Not all will thank you for it, but many, many more than you know will grow because of it. And that is power. There are voices that live inside you that are not your own. words that rise up from a place older than your memory. They come dressed in the colors of your grandmother's eyes, your grandfather's silence, your great aunt's fire. You open your mouth to speak, and what comes out is not just language, it is legacy. When you speak, the air listens, even the wind grows still. You do not speak to be clever or to impress. You speak because something ancient pushes through your chest and will not let you be quiet. You carry messages that were whispered in cotton fields, etched into kitchen tables, hummed through sorrow, and shouted across oceans. Your voice is not just your own. It carries echoes, weight, testimony. You don't speak often because you've learned the value of listening. And when you do, it is with purpose, with rhythm, with reverence, and it shakes something in the people around you, not because you're trying to shake them, but because truth always does. It startles, it stirs, it does not apologize. People ask how you know the things you know. You've read the books, yes, you've walked the roads, but what they don't understand is that much of your knowing didn't come from learning. It came from remembering. It came from your blood, your bones, your breath. You speak with the voice of ancestors, not just because you remember them, but because they remember you. And some people won't be able to handle it. They'll say you're intense, that you take things too seriously, that you speak like you've seen too much, but you have, even if not with your own eyes. Your soul remembers every chain, every prayer, every dream deferred. You carry wisdom that was passed down in songs and stored in silence. When you walk into a room, people don't just feel your presence. They feel the weight of all those who walk with you. Their names may not be known, but their spirits ride your shoulders. Their truths live in your pauses. Their struggles lace your voice with thunder. Even when you whisper, you have been chosen as a vessel, a keeper of stories, a translator of pain into power. There is a calm in you, but also a storm. And when you speak, people feel both. Your words rise like tides, gentle enough to bathe, strong enough to pull the ground from beneath their feet. You don't try to sound wise, you simply are, because you've listened deeply, not just to people, but to silence, to nature, to time, to the ache beneath laughter and the truth beneath excuses. Some folks speak to be heard, you speak to be felt. And when people feel your words, something shifts. It may be subtle, a breath held, a gaze averted, or it may be loud, a challenge, a tear, a question long avoided. That's not on you. You're not trying to wound or woo, you're just telling it like it is. And for some, that's the most dangerous thing a person can do. They may try to quiet you, to soften your tone, to civilize your truth, but truth has never been polite. It has never sat quietly in the corner waiting for its turn. It has always come uninvited, blazing, bare. And that is what your voice does. You may not always feel strong. You may question yourself, wonder why your presence causes such reactions. But don't you dare forget, this world has never known what to do with voices that carry thunder wrapped in grace. With people who can slice through illusions with a single sentence, with souls who remember what this world wants to forget. When you speak, you don't just add to the noise, you awaken something. You don't just inform, you transform. Because people hear you not just in their ears, but in their chest, in their gut, in the places they keep locked. And the ancestors smile when you do. They nod, they sigh, they rejoice, because they planted this voice in you long before you had the courage to use it. There will be times when your voice trembles, times when you are tired, when you feel unheard, but even in those moments, your silence is pregnant with meaning, because those who speak with the voice of ancestors do not always need volume, they carry vibration, and those who are meant to hear you will hear you, not just in the words, but in the spaces between them. So you speak, not to convince, not to conquer, not to conform. You speak because truth must be spoken, and you were chosen to speak it. You have never been drawn to the shallow end of the soul. While others wade in surface waters, seeking comfort in the easy and the obvious, you long for what lies beneath. You are not moved by popularity, performance, or pretense. What captures your spirit is substance. What's hidden behind the words, what's buried under the laugh, what's aching just beneath the smile. That is where you live. That is where you love. You have found again and again that attention is easy to get, but connection is something else entirely. The world rewards the loud, the visible, the constant self-display. But you are not made to dance for the eyes of strangers. You are not here to chase applause or to burn brightly just to be seen. You have never wanted the spotlight. You have always wanted the truth. It is a rare kind of hunger to crave meaning over noise, intimacy over admiration, presence over performance. And it can be lonely too, because many people have become addicted to the superficial, hooked on validation, scrolling endlessly through lives that are all caption and no content. You felt out of place among them. You've tried maybe once or twice to play the game, to shrink your truth to fit the trend, but it left you empty, didn't it? Because you know something others forget. Attention is not the same as love. Being seen is not the same as being understood. You would rather have one moment of real connection than a lifetime of shallow praise. You would rather sit in silence with someone who sees you than shout in rooms where no one listens. There is a quiet strength in that, a courage in not needing to be liked by the many, but choosing instead to be known by the few. You ask questions that make people pause. You look into eyes, not just at faces. You are not interested in what someone does, but why they do it. You want to know what keeps them up at night, what memories haunt them, what dreams they still carry, even if they're afraid to say them out loud. You want the rawness, the honesty, the trembling truth, and because you seek it, you often find it. People open to you, not because you push, but because your presence tells them it's safe to fall apart. But make no mistake, this kind of depth can be unsettling to others. They may call you intense, too serious, too emotional. They may pull away, not because you did anything wrong, but because your presence makes them feel things they've long buried. Your desire for meaning threatens the mask they wear. Your refusal to play small leaves them exposed. You don't mean to confront them, but your very being does. So you've learned to walk alone sometimes, to find joy in your own company. You've learned that solitude is not the absence of people. It's the presence of self. In your quiet, you explore your own depths. You face your shadows. You celebrate your light. And in doing so, you become someone who doesn't need attention to feel alive. You carry your own fire. There's a dignity in the way you move, slow, deliberate, intentional. You don't rush to fill the silence. You don't reach for validation when doubt creeps in. You sit with it. You sift through it. And when you speak, it's with the weight of someone who has done the inner work. That is why your words land differently. That is why people remember what you say, even if they don't know why. You may not be the loudest voice in the room, but you are the one people return to when they're tired of noise. They come to you not for performance, but for presence. They come to you when they're ready to be real. And yes, there will be those who overlook you, who underestimate you because you don't clamor for attention. Let them. You don't need to be seen by everyone. You only need to be seen by those who recognize what you carry. And those who do, they stay. Because what you offer is not a show, it is sanctuary. There is no shame in wanting more than the surface. There is no weakness in craving depth in a world that rewards shallow. It takes courage to be genuine, to be vulnerable, to say, this is who I am, whether you applaud or not. And you have that courage. You always have. So let others chase the light that flickers and fades. You will keep walking toward the fire that never dies, the one that burns quietly in the center of your soul, the one that doesn't need attention to exist, only truth, only depth, only you. There is a quiet power in seeing what others miss. While the world claps for the performance, you watch the space between movements. While others are distracted by the smile, you hear the tremble in the voice. You don't look to judge, but your gaze is honest. You see the truth hiding beneath the polish, the sorrow behind the sparkle, the fear behind the confidence. People wear masks. Some wear them so well, they forget they ever put them on. They laugh too loudly, speak too quickly, flatter too easily. They create images to protect themselves from pain, from shame, from being found out. But you, without effort, without force, you see. You look at them and the disguise falters, if only for a second. Because you are not interested in the character, they can feel it. You want the soul. And when you look at someone with that kind of honesty, it disarms them. Some feel exposed, some feel seen, some feel both, all at once. You don't always understand why people respond to you the way they do, why they open up, why they avoid you, why they stammer or stare, but it's because something in you calls forth the truth they are not ready to face. You never asked for this sight, you never trained to read people, but you've always known things before they were said. You feel shifts in energy like wind on your skin. You hear what isn't spoken. You watch gestures, pauses, glances, and suddenly you know more than you were ever told. You've come to realize that silence often speaks the loudest, and people rarely say exactly what they mean. This insight is both gift and burden. It allows you to build bonds rooted in truth. It makes you a safe place for the hurting, the honest, the brave. People come to you when they want to stop pretending. They come to you with their real faces, raw and unpolished, and you listen, not with judgment, but with presence. You hold space for what is messy, unfinished, unresolved. You offer no mask of your own, and in that others are inspired to set theirs down too. But not everyone is ready. Some fear what you see. They feel naked in your presence, vulnerable, uncomfortable. You haven't said a word, but still they feel as if you've seen too much. And perhaps you have, not because you pried, but because your spirit is still enough to receive what theirs leaks unknowingly. You don't chase truth, it reveals itself to you. And because of that, you've watched people retreat from you. They pull away when their masks begin to crack. They fear that you will expose them, not realizing that your seeing is never cruel. You don't see to destroy, you see to understand. But fear doesn't know the difference. In the face of deep perception, people can mistake gentleness for danger. You've had to learn to carry this sight with grace, to not say everything you see, to hold truth silently when speaking them would cause harm. You've learned that not every mask needs to be removed, not every truth must be spoken aloud. You've learned when to speak and when to simply know. That wisdom is not in revealing everything, but in knowing what to hold and when to hold it. Still, the masks can be exhausting. The pretending, the performances, the posturing. You walk through a world built on illusion, and it can be lonely to see through it all. But you have never been one to be satisfied by illusion. You crave the real, the honest, the whole, even when it's not pretty, even when it hurts. And so you keep watching, not with suspicion, but with compassion. You allow people to wear their masks when they need to, but you never mistake the mask for the person. You speak to the soul underneath, and sometimes that soul speaks back. Sometimes someone else is brave enough to meet you there, in the deep, unguarded space beyond performance. And when that happens, it is beautiful, rare, sacred. You carry an inner clarity that cuts through the noise. You don't need people to explain themselves. You already understand more than they know how to say. And in a world that thrives on image, your gift is not just in seeing the truth, but in loving it anyway. You were not made to be fooled. You were not made to be fed lies and call it nourishment. You were made to recognize the real, to honor it, and to gently, lovingly help others return to it, if they're ready. And even if they're not, you still see them, not who they pretend to be, but who they really are. And that, beloved, is a rare kind of seeing, one that heals without force, reveals without cruelty, and waits with grace. You've never needed to raise your voice to cause a stir. You've never had to wave your arms to be noticed. Just being who you are, quiet, steady, truthful, is enough to rattle walls people thought were solid. You do not come to destroy, but your very presence can shake the ground beneath those who have built their lives on shallow roots. You don't plan it. You don't wake up and think, today I will disrupt something. No, you simply walk in your truth, and truth is a force all its own. You step into a room, and suddenly the air feels different. People become aware of themselves in ways they hadn't before. Conversations shift, tones change. Some people stiffen, others soften. You haven't done a thing, but your being has. You carry an energy that speaks before you do, one that says, I see you, I hear what you're not saying, I notice what's hidden. And that kind of energy is not always welcome, not because it's harmful, but because it reveals what others work so hard to conceal. You don't sugarcoat, you don't flatter. You listen with presence and speak with clarity. You ask questions that cut through noise, offer observations that land like thunder, not because you want to shake people, but because the truth within you can't sit quiet forever. It leaks out, even in your silences, and that makes people nervous, not because you're mean, but because you're real. They're used to being able to perform, to impress, to control how they are perceived. But when they meet you, those tricks don't work. You see past them, and even when you say nothing, they feel exposed. You've watched it happen, people pulling back, getting defensive, suddenly needing to leave. You wonder if you said something wrong, but often it's what you didn't say. It's what your presence made them feel. You became a mirror, and not everyone is ready to look. But hear this, you are not the problem. You are not too much. You are not difficult. You are simply living in a way that refuses to lie. And in a world built on pretending, that is its own kind of revolution. Disruption doesn't always come in flames and fury. Sometimes it comes in stillness, in authenticity, in someone refusing to participate in the game. You're not here to entertain. You're not here to compete. You're not here to be liked at the cost of your soul. And yet, without trying, you make people rethink things. You make them question why they're doing what they're doing, whether their choices are aligned with their truth, whether their words match their heart. You don't have to preach. You embody. You live what others only speak of. That alone shifts something. You've likely been misunderstood, called difficult, aloof, even arrogant. But that's not who you are. You're simply not easy to categorize. You don't fit into molds. You don't play roles. And when people can't label you, they project onto you. But that's not your burden to bear. You know your heart. You know your intentions. You know that your desire is never to harm, but to heal, not to shame, but to awaken. Still, waking up can be uncomfortable. Not everyone wants to open their eyes, but do not shrink because your light is too bright for some. Do not dim your flame so others can stay comfortable in the dark. You were never meant to blend in. You were born to be a catalyst. You stir things, even in silence. You bring depth where there was only surface. You bring honesty where there was only approval seeking. And that disrupts patterns. It challenges comfort zones. It brings truth to tables built on lies. So yes, you disrupt without force, without noise, without trying. And that is your power. There is sacredness in the way you move, unbothered by praise, unmoved by disapproval. You walk like you know where you're going, even when the path is unclear. You speak when it matters. You're not afraid of silence. You don't perform, you exist fully and fiercely. And that alone shifts everything. You may not see it all the time, but your presence leaves ripples. You walk into lives and leave them more awake than they were before. You don't need to fix people. You don't need to push. You just need to keep being who you are, with integrity, with love, with truth, because that is the kind of disruption this world needs. Not the kind that breaks for the sake of breaking, but the kind that breaks open. The kind that clears space for something more honest, more human, more whole. And that is exactly what you do. There is a strength in solitude that many mistake for loneliness. But you know the difference. You are not afraid to be alone because you have discovered that being alone is not emptiness, it is fullness. It is a sanctuary where your soul breathes freely, where you meet yourself without masks, without distractions, without noise. You have learned that the richest conversations are the ones you have with yourself, deep in the quiet hours when the world fades away. You walk through life carrying a comfort that is rare and sacred, while others scramble to fill their days with chatter, company, constant movement. You understand the power of stillness. You know that solitude is not punishment, but gift. It is a chance to listen to the whispers of your heart, to confront your fears, to cradle your dreams, to heal the wounds that only silence can soothe. Being alone has taught you who you truly are, not the roles you play for others, not the masks you wear to protect, but the raw, unfiltered you, the part that is often hidden beneath layers of expectations and noise. In your solitude, you have faced your shadows and welcomed your light. You have danced with your doubts and embraced your strengths. And in that sacred space, you have found peace. There's a beauty in being comfortable alone. It means you don't depend on others to validate your worth. You don't seek constant approval or fear silence because it is empty. You know your own company is enough. You have become your own best friend, your own healer, your own witness, and that independence is a kind of freedom few ever taste. You have felt the pull of loneliness before, yes, the ache of isolation that makes the heart heavy and the spirit weary, but you have also learned that loneliness is not the same as being alone. Loneliness is a feeling, a shadow cast when connection is missing or when the soul feels unseen. Being alone, however, is a choice and a state of grace. It is standing tall in your own presence, even when no one else is near. In your solitude, you have heard truths that the world would drown out. You have heard your own voice rise strong and clear. You have found answers not in crowds or chaos, but in the quiet knowing that lives within. You have learned to trust yourself in a way that no external praise or companionship could ever teach. This comfort with being alone has not come easily. It has been forged through trials and tears, through moments when you had no choice but to stand alone and hold your own hand. But every step you took in solitude was a step toward wholeness. You have learned that solitude is not emptiness. It is the soil from which your strength grows. Others may see your comfort with being alone as distance or detachment. They may think you are cold or indifferent because you do not chase company or fill every silence, but you know better. You know that your solitude is a wellspring of compassion, because when you are at peace with yourself, you can meet others with more patience, more understanding, more love. You do not fear the quiet moments because in them you have found the courage to face yourself honestly. You have wrestled with your own doubts, sat with your own grief, and celebrated your own victories. And in doing so, you have become whole, not despite being alone, but because of it. There is a sacred power in choosing to be alone. It means you do not need the noise of others to feel alive. It means you carry your own light. your own song, your own rhythm. You have learned that the deepest connection begins within, and that when you are rooted in yourself, no external force can shake you. Your solitude is a gift to the world, because from that place of inner peace, you can give more fully, love more freely, stand more firmly. You do not seek to fill yourself with others. You are already full. And that fullness becomes a beacon for those who are searching for their own way home. Being comfortable alone means you do not settle for less than you deserve. You do not stay in situations or with people out of fear of being by yourself. You wait, you listen, you honor your own worth, and that patience brings you closer to the life and the love that truly nourish your soul. In a world that often equates loneliness with failure and solitude with sadness, you stand as a quiet rebellion. You show that being alone can be the most profound act of self-love and courage. You teach that peace is not found in the presence of others, but in the acceptance and embrace of oneself. So you walk your path with grace, carrying the quiet strength of one who knows that to be alone is not to be lost. It is to be found. It is to be whole. It is to be free. If your spirit feels too large for the rooms you enter, don't shrink, expand. If your truth makes others tremble, don't whisper, speak. You were not born to dim for comfort. You were born to blaze for clarity. Let them misunderstand. Let them distance themselves. Let them call it arrogance, intensity, even loneliness. Let them. You are not too much. You are just more than most can carry. So carry yourself with grace, with dignity, and with fire, because your aura is not a burden. It is your birthright,